Hello, I'm Rob Hislop. You're watching ICANN Media TV. Today, we start a three-part interview series with Doug Ford, who is the principal and senior consultant with Communica Public Affairs. Now, you may not be familiar with the name of the company or the man, but his client list is very impressive. It includes, among others, Enbridge, Encana, ExxonMobil, Shell, Total, and Kinder Morgan. Mr. Ford joins us now from his office in Calgary. Doug, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about yourself and your company.
Well, Communica is Western Canada's largest stakeholder engagement specialist firm, and by that means that our clients, typically in the energy industry, going through regulatory processes require support on communication or consultation. They'll turn to Communica to assist them in terms of navigating the very complex regulatory environment. So we assist them with understanding their external audiences, be it Aboriginal or the general public, and then to help plan and execute programs to support the regulatory application processes.
And just how long have you been doing this?
This is our 14th anniversary of Communica, so we've been very active. Our target market is primarily Alberta and British Columbia, and that's ground zero for oil and gas development in Canada. And so about 50% of our work is in fact in British Columbia. We have an office in Vancouver, we have an office here in Calgary, and we're very active.
Doug, perhaps you can tell us how things have changed over the years when it comes to your work with oil companies.
So I think that it's been a fairly dramatic change over the past 10 years, and in particular related to Aboriginal engagement, because 10 years ago, Aboriginal engagement was an evolving art. Today, it's absolutely critical to project success. So the single biggest change I've seen from a communication and consultation perspective has been the time, care, and attention that is paid to Aboriginal engagement by major proponents. And you cannot develop infrastructure in Canada today without a very well-defined and articulated Aboriginal engagement program.
You know, it seems to me as if at one time oil companies were able to get things done a little bit quicker when it came to projects, perhaps even get through the regulatory process faster as well, but that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
It's a quantum difference. And you know, the regulatory environment, first of all, I think you need to take a step back and say the regulatory environment in Canada, in Alberta and British Columbia, very rigorous, very thorough, and on par with anything that you'll see globally. So, you know, we are often, you know, our own worst detractors when it comes to, you know, the regulatory compliance side. But the reality is we have a very well-defined, sophisticated, and proven regulatory environment in Canada. That being said, it is much more difficult. The interests that are out there that have, you know, pay particular attention to regulatory applications, they spend a lot of time, care, and attention trying to enter the process. That means longer regulatory timeframes. Industry is grappling with that because everything is very schedule driven, but the reality, it will take you much longer than you anticipate to do even a routine application.
We had the opportunity to speak recently with a professor at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University in Ottawa, and Dr. Ian Lee believes that social activists are, I guess you could say, kind of messing up the process, as he says they enter the debate with what he refers to as absolutely no skin in the game, and yet they're still able to force outcomes.
So maybe I take a little different perspective to that, and that is that, first of all, the regulatory process is set up for that. It's set up to allow individuals and stakeholders or First Nation communities or social activists to articulate interests or concerns with respect to the proposed development. That being said, you're quite correct. The social activists today, they're not your typical, prototypical individuals that are operating out of their garage with no interest. They are sophisticated, they are highly financed, they are coordinated, they have a great deal of influence and experience, and they are very formidable. The eco-fanaticism that accompanies on the one extreme is particularly difficult to deal with because for them it is a cause, it is a calling. When you're doing God's work, you can lie. And I'm very upfront about that. And so industry grapples with that. How do you actually engage individuals in which there's black and white? In today's world, the reality is there's lots of subtleties of gray. There's areas where you want to be able to find collaboration and such is almost impossible on the extreme. That is just reality.
And that brings to a close part one of our interview with Doug Ford. In part two, Doug will tell us what the oil industry needs to do to get its message out there. Is confrontation part of the process? And what happens if the oil industry decides to do nothing? I'm Rob Hislop for ICANN Media.